Disclaimer: the information in this video is for informational purposes only and should not be considered medical advice. If you have any health concerns or issues, please consult a doctor or qualified healthcare professional. Hello and welcome to Health Pills. Today, we're going to dive into a fascinating topic that could seriously transform your life for the better. What would happen if you quit social media for 30 days? It's not just about freeing up more time during your day, though that's certainly part of it. In fact, there's so much more to uncover: how it affects your brain, your mental well-being, and even your physical health. Are you ready to explore how stepping away from social media could change your life in ways you never imagined? Then stick around, because by the end of this video, you might feel inspired to take on the challenge. Amazing Fact 1. How much time do we really spend on social media? Let's kick things off with some eye-opening statistics. Have you ever stopped to think about how much time we actually spend scrolling through social media? It's shocking when you look at the numbers. In North America, for example, the average person spends over 2 hours a day on social media platforms. Now let's take a trip to South America, where that number jumps to nearly 3.5 hours a day. That's not just a slight increase, it's a massive chunk of the day spent glued to screens. Over in Africa and Asia, people are spending around 3 hours a day, which is still significantly high. Europe, on the other hand, seems a bit more restrained, with an average of about 1 hour and 15 minutes per day. But let's look at the big picture. Globally, people are spending an average of 2 hours and 25 minutes per day on social media. Imagine this: 8 years ago, that figure was an hour less than it is now. Think about how much our habits have changed in just under a decade. And while social media has given us new ways to connect and share, we're also spending more and more time staring at screens rather than engaging with the world around us. But here's the kicker: it's not just about the time we spend scrolling. Social media use has deeper, more subtle consequences that we may not even notice. The more time we invest in these platforms, the more likely we are to experience a range of mental health issues. Studies have shown that high usage of social media is linked to increased levels of anxiety, stress, depression, and even suicidal thoughts. You might wonder why this is happening. The truth is, a lot of what happens on social media revolves around comparison. How many likes we get, who comments on our posts, and whether we measure up to the curated lives of others. This constant need for validation can leave us feeling lonelier and less confident. Even though we're connected to more people than ever before, many of us feel more isolated than ever. Amazing Fact 2. The dopamine cycle and the addictive slot machine effect. Now, you might be asking yourself, why is social media so addictive? Why do we keep coming back for more, even when we know it's not always good for us? The answer lies in the complex workings of our brain's chemistry. At the heart of this is a little chemical called dopamine. Dopamine is often called the pleasure chemical because it's responsible for the feelings of enjoyment and reward we experience. Every time we receive a notification, whether it's a new like, a comment, or a message, our brain gets a little hit of dopamine. This release makes us feel good, and naturally, we want more. This is where things start to get tricky. Social media is structured in a way that mimics the same reward systems as gambling, particularly with slot machines. Imagine standing in front of a slot machine, pulling the lever, and hoping for a big win. Most of the time, nothing happens, but occasionally you'll get a payout. The randomness of these rewards keeps you hooked because you never know when the next big win will come. Social media works in a very similar way. You don't always get a notification or a reward, but when you do, your brain gets that satisfying hit of dopamine. This intermittent reward system keeps us coming back, checking our phones again and again, just in case that maybe there's something new, exciting, or validating waiting for us. The effect on the brain can be intense. In fact, studies show that the dopamine release from social media notifications can spike by as much as 400%. To put that into perspective, while it's not exactly the same as a hit of cocaine, it's not far off. And just like with any addictive behavior, the more we engage with social media, the more our brain starts to crave those dopamine hits, reinforcing the habit loop and making it harder to break free. Amazing. Fact 3. How social media companies manipulate time and attention. You might be thinking, but social media started with good intentions, right? Wasn't it supposed to help us connect, share information, and make life more convenient? Absolutely. In fact, that was the original goal of many platforms. Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, all these platforms were designed to make communication easier and to bring people together across distances. But as these platforms grew in popularity, something shifted. They realized that the more time users spent on their apps, the more money they could make by selling advertising space. And suddenly, the race was on, not just to connect people, but to keep them on the platform for as long as possible. To achieve this, social media companies began developing sophisticated algorithms designed to grab and hold your attention. Every time you refresh your feed, new posts and stories are delivered to keep you scrolling, watching, and clicking. These algorithms are specifically crafted to maximize your time on the platform. And here's where it gets a little unsettling. Many of these companies have hired experts in addiction, including neuroscientists and behavioral psychologists, to help design their systems. They study human behavior, the brain's reward system, and even addiction patterns to make their platforms as engaging, and yes, as addictive, as possible. In essence, we've gone from using social media as a tool to stay in touch with friends and family, to becoming the product ourselves. Our attention, our time, and our engagement are what social media companies are really selling. The more time we spend on these platforms, the more ads they can show, and the more money they make. It's a business model built on keeping us hooked, and it's been incredibly effective. Amazing fact 4: how social media is literally changing your brain. So, what's really happening in your brain when you spend hours absorbed in social media? The effects go beyond just feeling distracted. The truth is, spending too much time on social media can actually rewire your brain. Let's talk about the science behind this. When you're constantly engaging with social media, the areas of the brain responsible for attention, emotional regulation, and decision-making start to change. One of the most affected areas is the frontal lobe, which is often referred to as the brain's executive center. This part of the brain helps us focus, filter out distractions, manage stress, and make rational decisions. When we spend too much time on social media, this executive center becomes less effective. We lose the ability to concentrate for extended periods, we become more impulsive, and we struggle to manage our emotions. Have you ever noticed that after spending a lot of time scrolling through social media, you feel more anxious or overwhelmed? That's your brain struggling to process the flood of information, the comparisons, and the constant stimulation. Even worse, these changes in the brain aren't just short-term. Over time, excessive social media use can lead to long-lasting effects. The brain's neural pathways are plastic, meaning they adapt and change based on the activities we engage in the most. If we're constantly overstimulated by social media, our brain gets used to that level of engagement, making it harder to focus on other, more important tasks. This is why you might find it difficult to sit still and focus on a book or even have a quiet moment of reflection. Your brain is craving the constant, fast-paced stimulation of social media, and it becomes less able to function without it. Amazing fact 5: digital addiction is just like substance addiction. At this point, you might be wondering, is it really that serious? Can social media really be compared to something as dangerous as drug or alcohol addiction? The answer, surprisingly, is yes. When we talk about addiction, we usually think of substances like drugs or alcohol. But addiction can also be behavioral, and social media is a prime example of this. Just like people who struggle with gambling addiction, many social media users find it difficult, if not impossible, to stop checking their accounts. What's happening in the brain is strikingly similar to what happens with substance addiction. Whether it's drugs, alcohol, or social media, the brain's reward system is hijacked, creating a cycle of craving and reward. Over time, this leads to long-term changes in the brain, making it harder to break the habit. This is why it's so challenging for people to simply cut back on social media. You might set a goal to spend less time scrolling, but without addressing the underlying addiction, you'll likely find yourself right back where you started. This is much like people who try to lose weight by eating less without understanding the root cause of their eating habits. Just like with dieting, if you don't address the psychological and emotional triggers behind your social media use, cutting back won't be enough. The addiction is deeply embedded in your brain's neural pathways, and breaking free from it requires more than just willpower. Amazing. Fact 6. How movement strengthens the brain. Now, let's take a moment to look at the flip side. Did you know that our brains are wired to thrive on movement? That's right. Our brains actually perform better when we're active and moving around in our environment. The more we move, the more complex and strong our neural connections become. When we engage with the world physically, whether it's going for a walk, exercising, or even doing everyday tasks, our brain receives a variety of sensory inputs that help to build complex neural networks. This is what neuroscientists call spatial summation, meaning that when you're moving, your brain is receiving inputs from multiple sensory channels: sight, sound, touch, and even balance. All of these inputs are integrated into a rich, complex network of neural connections that help you process the world around you and make sense of your environment. But here's where it gets concerning. When we spend hours sitting still in front of a screen, we deprive our brains of that essential movement. Our brains receive far less sensory input, and as a result, our neural connections weaken. We become less able to interact with the world around us, and our awareness and resilience start to decline. In short, social media and screen time are limiting our brain's ability to function at its full potential. Amazing fact 7. The attention crisis: why our focus is fading. Over the last few decades, something alarming has been happening to our attention spans. Have you noticed how much faster movies, TV shows, and even YouTube videos seem to be? There's a reason for that. As our attention spans shrink, content creators have had to adapt by packing in more visual and auditory stimuli in shorter bursts. Where once we could sit through long, thoughtful scenes, today's media is filled with quick cuts, fast-moving graphics, and intense sound effects designed to grab our attention and keep us engaged. This phenomenon creates a vicious cycle. The more we're exposed to fast-paced media, the less able we are to focus on slower, more reflective tasks. And it's not just about media consumption. This shrinking attention span affects every area of our lives. We're less able to focus on work, relationships, and even our own thoughts. Have you ever tried to sit in silence for a few minutes, only to feel restless or anxious? That's a sign that your brain has become accustomed to constant stimulation, and without it, it struggles to function. Amazing fact 8. The impact on younger generations. Now, here's something that's truly concerning: the impact that social media and digital devices are having on younger generations. If we as adults are struggling to maintain our mental health and focus in the age of social media, imagine what's happening to children and teens who are growing up with smartphones and tablets from a young age. Children's brains develop rapidly during their formative years, and the experiences they have during this time lay the foundation for their future mental and emotional health. When children are constantly exposed to digital stimuli, their brains may not develop the strong, complex neural networks needed for attention, emotional regulation, and decision-making. This could have long-term consequences on their ability to focus, manage stress, and interact with the world around them. It's something we need to seriously consider as more and more young people are growing up in a world dominated by screens. Amazing fact 9. Social media's impact on sleep quality. Did you know that excessive use of social media, especially before bed, can have a significant negative impact on your sleep? One of the main culprits is the blue light emitted by screens, which tricks the brain into thinking it's still daytime. This suppresses the production of melatonin, the hormone responsible for regulating our sleep-wake cycles. Without enough melatonin, it becomes harder to fall asleep and achieve restful, deep sleep. Furthermore, the stimulating nature of social media, with its endless stream of notifications, messages, and emotionally charged content, keeps the brain in an alert state when it should be winding down. Studies have shown that people who frequently check their social media right before bed tend to experience poorer sleep quality, which can lead to difficulty concentrating, irritability, and lower energy levels throughout the day. In the long run, chronic poor sleep can also increase the risk of serious health issues, including heart disease, obesity, and depression. Prioritizing screen-free time before bed can help improve sleep quality, leading to better overall health and well-being. Amazing Fact 10: How social media affects real-life relationships. While social media was originally designed to bring people closer together, excessive use can actually have the opposite effect on our real-life relationships. One of the reasons is that the time we spend engaging with virtual connections often comes at the expense of meaningful face-to-face interactions. This can lead to feelings of disconnection as we become more distracted and less present in conversations with family and friends. Social media can contribute to a phenomenon known as phubbing, ignoring someone in person in favor of focusing on your phone, which can create tension and dissatisfaction in relationships. Constant comparison to the idealized, curated lives of others online can also foster feelings of inadequacy, jealousy, or resentment, further straining our connections with those closest to us. Studies have shown that people who spend too much time on social media report feeling lonelier and less satisfied with their real-world relationships, even when they're technically more connected than ever. On the other hand, reducing social media use has been shown to improve the quality of face-to-face interactions, helping people feel more emotionally connected, supported, and engaged with those around them. By being more present in the moment, we can cultivate deeper and more fulfilling relationships in our everyday lives. Amazing Fact 11: What happens if you quit social media for 30 days? Now that we've explored the potential downsides of social media, let's shift gears and talk about something more positive. What would happen if you decided to quit social media for 30 days? This challenge has been taken on by thousands of people, and the results are often nothing short of remarkable. Many people who have tried this challenge report feeling significant improvements in their mood, focus, and overall well-being. Without the constant pull of notifications and the need for validation, they find themselves more present in the moment, able to engage with their surroundings in ways they hadn't before. Some people even notice improvements in their productivity, as they have more mental energy to devote to meaningful tasks rather than mindless scrolling. One of the most striking changes is the boost in self-esteem that many experience. Without the pressure to constantly compare themselves to others, people begin to feel more content with who they are and what they have. It's as if a weight has been lifted off their shoulders, and they're free to live their lives without the need for outside approval. Conclusion. So, what's the takeaway here? I'm not saying you need to give up social media entirely or throw away your devices. Social media and technology are incredible tools, and when used mindfully, they can enhance our lives in countless ways. The key is to learn how to use these tools without letting them control us. You are the master of your time and attention, not the algorithms. Why not take on the 30-day social media detox challenge and see for yourself? You might be surprised by how much better you feel, how much more focused and productive you become, and how your overall quality of life improves. If you found this video helpful and want to keep learning about how to improve your health and well-being, make sure to subscribe to the HealthTips channel and turn on notifications so you never miss one of our life-changing videos. And if you enjoyed these tips, leave a like and share this video with your friends. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next episode.